Let's bring in Fox News senior judicial analyst Andrew Napolitano. Excuse me, Judge Andrew Napolitano. I can't miss that.
Call me whatever you want this morning. How are you?
No, I call you sir and judge. Is this the right move, Judge?
Well, I was a little concerned when the president-elect said, I don't want to cause too much heartache for the Clintons, and I don't know yet if he's seen the FBI file on them, and he should see that file before he makes a decision. But the latest information from Reince Priebus, namely that the president will abide the decision of the Attorney General, who obviously will rely on what the FBI has already gathered, is heartening to me. I don't think the decision to prosecute or not to prosecute should be a political one. It should be a legal one. Now, I've been arguing for months that there's enough evidence to prosecute Mrs. Clinton for espionage, the failure to safeguard state secrets. And I was harshly critical of FBI Director Comey when he, not Attorney General Lynch, but FBI Director Comey said, we're not going to prosecute. By the way, here's all the evidence against her, and he listed all that. Let's not forget, there are 3 investigations. There's the now shut down for the second time investigation of espionage, failure to safeguard state secrets. There's the public corruption investigation, succinctly. Did she tailor her decisions as Secretary of State to enrich the Clinton Foundation? And then there's the investigation of the Clinton Foundation itself, in which her husband is also a target. Was it a bona fide charity? Was it a slush fund, just a means to enrich them? Was it a criminal enterprise in which the money did not go as the donors intended it to go? So those are 3 distinct investigations, 1 closed, 2 still ongoing.
President Clinton, President Obama going to pardon her?
I don't know. That would certainly relieve President-elect Trump and Attorney General to-be Sessions of this. But if he does, he would leave dangling a lot of gross inconsistencies, like our friend, your friend and mine, and a great American patriot, General David Petraeus.
I'd say he pardons them both.
Well, he would have to pardon about a half-dozen people in order to put Mrs. Clinton in perspective.
Right, the kid on the submarine.
Right, the kid on the submarine, whose name is Saucier, took a selfie, sent it to his girlfriend, not realizing that behind him was a sonar screen. And he didn't send it to the press. He didn't send it to Sid Blumenthal. He didn't put it on an insecure server. He sent it to his girlfriend, and he's in jail.
Right.
Well,
so Mooch is right.
I understand that Trump is trying to balance his interest in being pragmatic and getting things done,
yes,
but also following through with his promise to hold her feet to the fire. And to be honest with you, I understand. I'm conflicted internally because I want to see him hold her feet to the fire. But at the same time, that doesn't accomplish any of his economic plans, doesn't tackle the problem of ISIS.
Right.
So how does he manage this? Because if they pursue her, even if it's to the Justice Department, not the White House, it's still going to have political repercussions and fallout.
Okay. There is no way that she would be indicted without him personally giving the go-ahead. Okay. He can say, I will rely on Attorney General Sessions, I will rely on FBI Director blank, whoever presumably will replace Jim Comey. And Comey could stay, but I think that's problematic. Yeah. But if he relies on the professionals, that is the right thing to do. Now, maybe he wants to be like Abraham Lincoln and say, look, I'm going to pardon people who did awful harms because I'm the new president. I want to wrap my arms around everybody, people that supported me and people that supported her. That is a political judgment. It may be the wise thing to do. Right. It may frustrate some of his supporters, but only he can make that decision.
But, Judge, we're talking a lot about Hillary Clinton, what she could be held accountable for, not held accountable for, but there's still, I feel like, not enough discussion about her top aides and their involvement. So is there any ongoing investigation into them, any clearances that have been rejected? I mean, what's, because it wasn't just her.
Well, Cheryl Mills, those laptops that were turned over, they weren't destroyed based on Brett Baer's reporting.
Right.
All right, well, Brett Baer's reporting revealed to us that Cheryl Mills and the others received, quote, limited agreements not to prosecute. That's not the same as immunity. That basically means that the prosecutor in charge of the investigation at the time, who since has left the Justice Department, agreed that any information they gave voluntarily couldn't be used against them. Other information developed from other sources can be used against them. But back to what we discussed with Mooch, these people might have to be in the ambit of the pardon as well. How could you pardon the head of the conspiracy and prosecute the actual conspirators themselves? almost like Bridgegate.
I want to ask you about the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court at the top of President-elect Donald Trump's agenda when he takes office. Among his top choices to fill the empty seat on the bench, federal court judges Dianne Sykes of Wisconsin, William Pryor of Alabama. Who would you like to see replace the late Justice, the great Antonin Scalia?
One of the great privileges of my life was to be his dear friend in the last 10 years of his life, and I think I know him very well. And I was very, very, very heartened, and I think this probably came from the handsome young man sitting to your right, to learn.
Is this on the word young?
Right? to learn that the president-elect and his transition team are actually interested in the ideology of judging. They're interested in textualism, championed by Justice Scalia. You interpret the statute and the Constitution by its plain meaning, as it meant when it was written, or originalism, when the document is ambiguous or doesn't address the issue. You go back to the values that underlie the document at the time it was ratified, because the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. They are getting that deep into the weeds of a very, very serious way to address the Constitution.
I just want to say something about this, because I am a recovering lawyer, and I've obviously taken constitutional law. And probably the best meeting of my life was with Justice Scalia in June of 2014. In that conversation, we talked about textualism, and we talked about the original intent.
Yes.
And I'll say this about the president-elect: he's got some of the best instincts ever. And as we all know here, one of his sisters is a judge who is an incredibly impeccable, well-reputed judge. And my guess is he's going to do a great job in picking this. This is going to be a very big focus of his, and he'll be as deliberate as he's been on these other jobs here in the cabinet.
But often judges are chosen because of their perception, and sometimes this is a mistake. The conservative Republican governor of California, Earl Warren, became the most liberal Supreme Court Chief Justice in the modern era. Both John Paul Stevens and David Souter profoundly disappointed the presidents who put them on.
How about the current Chief Justice, John Roberts?
Also largely a disappointment to George W. Bush. But the manner in which your team is looking at this, by looking at the method of judging, not the perception of the judge's politics, but the method of judging, is so refreshing to see that for the first time in the modern era.
Those robes? You're going to go naked to the bench?
I'm going to wear a tie when I come to the interview.
Okay.
I just found that whole conversation so exciting. It's always so great to see you.
Oh, a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for being here, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Great to see you. Go read some of the Scalia's opinions. They're just like the most exciting,
yes, they are.
exciting things.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Right?
Game changer.
Never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment, particularly with you too, Judge.